All right. First up, I want to take a look at what I think is good marketing for a game. Now, I know that I talked about wanting to like open stuff or open like episodes and stuff with games, right? Like, lift up the gaming community because that's what I'm passionate about. Do you remember me saying that?
Oh yeah, multiple
Okay.
times.
Okay. Um, so what happened was, and this is a game called Aftermath Red Pine Lake. And I think we touched on it last week, but there's an update to what I have here. So I just want to cover that real quick. They got stopped or they got stuck on Steam, maybe through like an automated process or something, or someone reviewed their game and they're like, your digital assets violate our terms of service because the image, it was a girl in like a full one piece swimsuit, and it was a, a 2D video game character butt on the screen. Like it's a covered butt, right? Not really
hmm
bad, and from my perspective in any way, right? Like very very modest from what we usually find online. Um, but they got dinged for it. So this post that they put out, Red Pine Cake, they decided to, instead of get mad and attack Steam and try to just draw the rage that everyone else is so addicted to online these days, they decided to play into it and play like the I guess this is meme game or whatever. But they said Red Pine Cake, and if they changed this image, then maybe Steam would allow them to promote their game on the platform or get their game on the platform. And I think that this was a really good example of leaning into especially the gaming community, because as for me, I don't know about you, and I want you to tell me in a second, um, how a developer, how someone is putting out their game and how they engage with me as a gamer matters to me. Where do you what do you think about a lot of what I presented here? Pick anywhere you'd like to start.
Well, I mean, there's a difference between the big established quote unquote AAA and AA companies to being an indie. And making my own game and everything else. Of course, you and I talked about our my marketing approach that I'm doing. I don't want to talk about it too much right now, that specifically, but it has definitely become hyper politicized, the overall gaming community, because of the DEI and the collective shout and all that kind of stuff. And now, especially with the payment processors, but the fact that this is a good example of how to utilize the current trends in order to boost and market the game. And because of the situation, because the way that Steam treated this, which I actually know, so I got some information about it, and I'll talk about in a sec. They were able to, greatly increase their sales because they fought back and won against Steam. And Chibi Reviews actually talked about it quite a bit. I got a lot of information about to say I got from his posts and some of the other stuff. There's a couple articles about it too.
I
Um,
invited him to come join us one day. He said maybe.
yeah, yeah, I saw it. And
So we'll see.
we'll see what
We'll
happens.
see.
Well, we might have to grow a little bit more before he actually considers it, but or we say something so profound that it blows up that he'll want to. But
Well, clearly, people aren't listening to you because when you talk, you say some profound, stupid shit. I'm kidding. You say some profoundly wise stuff.
profound, stupid shit. The dualistic nature of what you just said does kind of emphasize, my individual nature. So very good description. But I mean, well, what kind of happened with this is that there was actually an individual. There are people who have to go through and review it, and I suspect that the specific person who was assigned to their game was very left leaning and really trying to, one of those people who have gotten into, you know, the Valve company and is trying to, do make their subtle changes from within. And of course, what they don't seem to realize, those people who follow that, assuming what I'm, saying about the program manager that was over this game originally, is actually on the left. But basically, what happened is that they requested a new person to review it, and Valve agreed. And that new person basically, from what I understand, came out and said that, yeah, that what the previous person was saying doesn't make a whole lot of sense. There's nothing wrong with this. This doesn't violate any of our standards. And now it's fully released,
Mm-hmm.
and it's going to be fully released, and it's been fully accepted because there's no adult theme. It's just a woman in a bathing suit. And within the greater culture of the West, as well as, Asian, and not so much in Asia, but mostly the West, but to a lesser extent in Asia, a woman in a bathing suit is considered normal. It's considered fine. It's not a big deal. And it's just someone was imparting their own personal beliefs or own personal agenda, probably a better way to say it,
Yeah.
to prevent this from coming out, because you just so happen to have a woman's ass in a bathing suit on one of the screens, which is, and stupid. So,
Two
yeah.
things to that. I'm going to push back on 2 points. One, it's not a woman. It's a video game character. It's not real, so it's representing a female.
Oh, yeah.
I understood what you were saying with that.
You do make a point there, though, because that is a talking point that a lot of people who are against a lot of the fictional depictions of, various forms, whether or not they, are, lack of a better way to say it right now, like kind of pornographic in nature versus an actual real life human being. So it's fiction versus reality. That whole argument, just I guess the word choice that's been used is now being, how do I say, utilized as a way to push their own agenda, when in reality is still fiction versus reality. So yeah.
And there's Supreme Court precedent to support it. So it's not much of an argument, but people will still make it.
Well, at the end, to kind of push back against that, there's still a difference between laws and morality.
Yeah.
Laws are supposed to be moral in nature, but they're not always that way. So there's kind of an argument with that as well. So even if the Supreme Court does say that, this doesn't violate any laws, doesn't violate human rights or anything else, there's still the moralistic nature of, depictions of fictional characters that do involve negative actions or attributes against one, group of people versus another. But at the same time, it's still fiction versus reality. It's people who have, and the people who are screaming the loudest are the ones that don't really have the intellectual capacity, or maybe even the maturity, or both, to really separate reality from fiction. And they highlights their own internal deviance that they have been able to come to terms with themselves. So projection, essentially. So,
but it makes money, and that's part of the problem. So I guess
engagement farming.
Yeah. But what I just wanted to, we'll go and close this one out. But this is kind of what we said. Seems like a really good example of using social media and the gaming culture. Their approach or their response to this and how they've handled it makes me understand they understand the gaming culture and the gaming mindset, and that gives me interest in wanting to support their product. Right?
Yep, agree.
How they're choosing to engage, just like what was it with the Aggro Games that made Peak. I absolutely love their marketing person. They're brilliant. I love them to death. And to me, anytime that we talk about games, it always exists outside of politics for me. So even though we do get into some heavy topics and we get into some highly charged political topics sometimes, that's definitely not the focus of any time I bring up a game. But I wanted to congratulate them on doing something that I think is right. And they even put out a graph today, and they're up like thousands of wish lists. And I want to do everything to support companies that are going to be looking out for gamers. Regardless of what side you're on, if you're making the right choice for gamers, I'm going to try to get behind that, even if I may not be in agreement with what you're putting out, right? There's still a right way to do things, and we can disagree on things, but we'll leave that at that.